Hello friends, in my last video I talked about the basic principles of information security, and I tried to explain you by giving a comparison between the natural laws, natural principles versus the laws which govern inside the information security and what principle we make. In nature, it's easy to discover nowadays with all the scientific advancement different laws and what are the principles behind it, because there have been so many work already done on these topics, and we kind of study everything from our school days. In information security, these laws are the laws related with the data transfer rate, like bit rate, baud rate, which are still a function of the hardware changes any object can sustain to create one bit. So those laws are not part of CISSP. If you are interested, you can go into the material sciences like the transistors, semiconductors, flip-flop devices. So those are the different subjects which deal with the material laws which generate the analog and digital signals basically. Based on those laws, since we are human and in our normal transaction, which is not digital, like in our day-to-day life, we have certain principles in our life, like the principle of integrity, the principle of truthfulness, the principle of fairness, the principle of human dignity. So these principles we all kind of endorse for the whole humankind, and we define certain actions good or bad based on these principles, right? So these principles are something which is very self evident, which is universally accepted, and everyone agrees to it. Similarly, in information security domains, those principles are a reduction, like the principle of confidentiality, integrity, or authentication or non-repudiation. So these are the reduction of the universally accepted truth, universally accepted principle, which we kind of enjoy in our day-to-day life, and which are the foundation of a successful community to exist. So the same way in information security as well, a policy which is based on sound principles is the key driver of the success of an organization. The success of an organization comes from various factors: how the corporate governance is functioning, how IT governance is helping, and how security governance is helping both IT and corporate governance. And the effectiveness of a security governance system lies in the inherent effectiveness in the information security policy, which in turns is dependent on the fundamental principle of information security. And that's what was the subject of my last video. What I'm going to do here, I'm going to do a little bit of more exploration of these terms, these key fundamental principles of information security, and we'll see that how they relates to when a message is transmitted from a point A to point B. Hopefully you will enjoy this video, and in the last I will be presenting you something which might be of use as an added knowledge to CISSP. So stay tuned, let's come to the drawing board. So in drawing board, sorry, there was a problem, now it's sorted. So let's imagine an imaginary communication between two people, like you have got person A and person B, and there is something which is called, I will call it as information system, which is basically all the infrastructure used in sending the message from A, right? And then there is similarly an information system with B, and there is a network in between. So network is just to facilitate communication between A and B, right? Why I am drawing this block information system, because it's very important for us to know this the concept of information system, because everything relates either with the message or with the information system, right? You can think of information system as an for a simple examination, the email software, like the email client. So that's an information system which is used to send an email message which contains some information and is transmitted from A to B. Now what you have here is something which is called message. M. So there are certain aspects of this message which are inherited by the fundamental principles of information security in which it operates, right? So what are the fundamental principles of information security which directly relates with the message? Those fundamental principles are, let me write it down here: confidentiality of the message, integrity of the message, authentication of the person who sent the message, again related with the message, and non-repudiation, making it verified and confirmed that the user A sent the message, right? Authentication is done by the receiving party, which is a person B here. He will engage in all the systems and methods and processes which will facilitate authentication. And non-repudiation is a mechanism which will be enforced by the sender himself in the message, saying that I sent this message, and B will eventually verify this, right? So all these aspects are related with what? Are related with the message itself, and these are called the principles of information security. So these all are the principles of information security. Who made these principles? We made these principles. What is the background? Because we have similar set of principles working in our day-to-day life, in our day-to-day transaction, in friendship, love, marriage, commerce. We do have the principle of trust, the principle of truthfulness, the principle of personal integrity. So all these things are there. Since we are developing this information system, we are acting as a what I will say, as an ambassador of the one who created all these natural principles. We don't know, some people who are religious, they refer to God. People who are naturalists, they say that they are natural process. People who are atheists, they say that these are the psychological reduction of survival of fittest instinct. So these are the different discussions. I'm not going to go into there, but just know that there are some fundamental principles of human life which operates in the human ecology. Now the same type of principles exist in the ecology of information system, and they are basically these four principles which directly relates with the message. There are two more principles which are called let me write it down with another color: access control and availability. These are also the these are also the principle of information security, but the uniqueness of these two principles are that they are not related with directly with the message itself. They are somehow related with the information system, which facilitate or which kind of encompass or which participate in the communication of message, right? So this is the distinction we should know, and I hope the whole point of making these two videos, this video and the previous video, which will be there in the link will be there in the end of the video, is make you comfortable with these fundamental principles of information security, so that you can relate its origin, its genesis, like where it comes from, and you can when you explain these terms to someone, or when you come across a question in CISSP about these principles, you will be having a broader spectrum of thought process, which will really help you in getting the real insight of the question and arriving at the right option, right? So I hope this is useful. What is confidentiality? In a simple term, that the secrecy of message M, which is here sending from A to B, is only known to B and A. That's called the principle of confidentiality, that only those people should know the message, those who are meant to know the message, right? Integrity is that the content of message in transit should not change. Authentication is a principle which says that the receiver should be able to verify the identity of the sender. That's the authentication process. Non-repudiation is a process or a mechanism, and it's stated in the principle wherein it says that the message sent by A to B should be in a way that A will not be able to repudiate or deny that I have sent the message. And access control, we all know that accessing the system or accessing the message has to be restricted in a way that the information system who actually processes the message or participate in sending and receiving the message should have enough control, so that only authorized user can access the information system and the message itself, right? Availability is something, it's a principle which says that the message should be available to authorized user, processes and systems for the time it is meant to be available, right? So that's the availability. There are different things which actually violate these principles, like interception is for confidentiality, modification is a violation of integrity, you know. So those kind of thing is already discussed in my last video. I will not again go in there. So this is something which is useful. The other thing which I wanted to tell you about the OSI layer for security. We all know the OSI layer for the network stack. I will briefly touch the OSI layer of security. This is an information, if you have it, it's good, but it's not 100% necessary for the CISSP curriculum. But again, it's nice to have that information. So let's go into that in a different drawing board. Welcome back. So we have this OSI network model, right? So we know network model because anyone who is in IT industry, in any domain, they know that there is something called physical layer, then data link layer, network layer. So that model is called OSI network model, which is 7498-1. That's the number with this model, right? So if I just write it down here, which is OSI network model, and this is 7498-1. No need to memorize this number, but if you know it, it's good. And what is that? The famous acronym is please do not trust salesperson advice, right? So it is please for presentation is the topmost layer. Anna, I think I did something wrong. Please do not trust. Start with with physical. I will write it from the top, and then I will relate application layer, and then we have session layer, and then you have transport layer, then you have network layer, and then you have a data link layer, then you have physical layer, right? So please do not trust salesperson advice, right? So I missed P, which is presentation layer, which is here. Let me a bit out. Presentation and then application, right? So please do not trust your person. Now it's full, it's cool, it's okay. Similarly, we have something which is called OSI Security Model, and this is exactly the same number 7498-2, right? So this is something which is very less discussed in information security domain, because it's not required any time in our discussion. Whereas OSI network model is something which is a basic foundation to understand the networking stacks and different networking protocols, right? If we don't say the OSI security model, we also kind of develop the same kind of understanding. And what are the different steps here in OSI security model? So first is authentication. Then you have access control. If you see here, like the it goes with a sequence by a sequence wherein the understanding is that how a message is being received by or treated, like the message treatment flow you will see here in this in these layers. Then you have non-repudiation. Then you have data integrity, confidentiality, confidentiality. Then you have confidentiality is also called assurance in this model, right? Then you have notarization or signature, right? So I will just write signature or notarization. So these are the OSI security model. Here you will see that what are the layers which relates with data itself. So anything except access control is the property of information system. The principle of access control applies with the information system, as I explained in my previous drawing here. Right, access control and availability, these things are basically the property of information system, and these two things. There is and I think I did something wrong here again. Confidentiality is not assurance, sorry. Confidentiality is confidentiality. Let me write it down here again. Data integrity and confidentiality. Then you have assurance, which is availability. Then you have signature, which is notarization, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, these are the similar. Excuse me, like apologies for my past explanation. That was something which slipped from my mind. So confidentiality is related with secrecy. You can write secrecy here, secrecy of data, right? So access control and assurance, this is the point which I was trying to explain. These are the properties of system which processes information. And rest of the things, authentication, non-repudiation, data integrity, confidentiality and signature, this all applies to the message itself. So this guy, data integrity, confidentiality, signature, this applies to the message. right? So this is also nice to know. If you know it, if you know its context, its origin, its genesis, whatever you want to say, this gives us a confidence in the subject. I hope you like this video. If you really like it, put a thumbs up. You can subscribe the channel for more useful content which will help you in CISSP exams. Thanks for watching the video.